Danielle, welcome to Sales Mastery. It's a delight to have you with me today. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
I'm Danielle Roessle. I live in Bethesda, Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C., and I'm a career counselor in private practice. I fell into career counseling by complete happenstance. I started my career as a school social worker, and a part of my job was teaching a college and careers class and mentoring students through the college and careers process. And after that position, I decided to pivot my career and focus on career counseling ever since. It's been incredibly rewarding, and I started my business about 6 years ago. I've been mostly focusing my private practice on young and mid-career professionals, people who are established in their career, yet feeling unfulfilled and wanting to find more meaning in their career. And I help them identify what they need, and I help them identify jobs that could be a good fit.
And a very apropos skill at this time in all of that's going on. You know, before we started recording, we were just mentioning how when I spoke to you initially, it kind of seemed like things were settling down. Mm-hmm. Now it seems like things are not settling down at all, but really it seems to be getting worse. And so there are people that are concerned for their jobs. So today's discussion is going to be, how do we navigate this and what kinds of sales skills can be used to help people as they're repurposing their life, not their life, but their skill sets in order to be able to take care of their families and their own personal needs. So I guess the first thing to talk about really is the transfer of skills, because we tend to, so you're a perfect example. You started out as a school counselor. Now here you are, a career coach. So how did that work for you in terms of seeing that transition? And how can that work for other people who may be facing a layoff? Because government funding is going to end here pretty soon too. So we have to be creative, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, when I was in my position, there's a few pieces of context that I think would be really helpful. So I was a school social worker, and the college and careers happened to be the part of the position I really loved. There were a lot of the aspects of the position that were high burnout for me. And the aspects that were high burnout were some of the more therapeutic components with the students, like the ongoing counseling, the long hours, just really the level of high needs my students were. And it breaks my heart because I love the students, and yet I was so burned out by the demands of the position. And I had to ask myself, what did I love about my work that I wanted to move forward, and what did I want to let go of? And the reality for me was I do love, my background is as a psychotherapist. I love that skill set. Yeah, I didn't want to practice traditional psychotherapy. I really wanted to figure out how to use it in the career context so that I could help individuals get unstuck and find direction. And so for me, it was letting go of psychotherapy as I knew it and stepping into a way I wanted to use it. And that was in the career development context. And that's just one example. One of the things I always tell individuals who are facing a transition right now is it is a really wonderful opportunity to figure out what you want to move forward and what you want to let go of. And a part of identifying your transferable skills is not just saying what skills can make me money, but what skills make me feel alive that I can monetize. And it's really amazing because I think once we embrace what we want to move forward and let go of what's no longer serving us, we can really step into an incredible transition right now, despite how painful it is what's happening in the world around us.
Yeah, I like how you talked about that we need to let go of some things, and then we need to embrace new things. You know, what has happened in the world has been forced on us in many respects. Companies have to make decisions that can hopefully have jobs for us at the end of all this, right? But it can seem heartless and cruel. And we really have to, it's a good opportunity for us to forge our own path, if you will. You know, a lot of salespeople do that kind of thing, but not everybody feels they're a salesperson. And so, but those skills that make good salespeople are really important at this juncture as you're trying to figure out where to go from here. What could be one or two sales skills? I kind of threw this on her, so guys, if she stumbles a little bit, it's okay. But what are a couple of sales skills that would be helpful as they're looking at that transition of figuring out where they want to go from here?
Yeah. Well, I always share to own what you bring to the table, but not feel like you have to prove it. And some of the best salespeople I've encountered just have a sense of ownership. It's not a force. It's not, oh my gosh, I need to make something happen, because that, I think, is what has historically given that, car salesman, and I'm not saying car salesmen are like that, but that negative stereotype is that power, that force that makes people feel uncomfortable. So if you are going out into the world feeling like you have to prove something, that energy is not going to yield results that are going to be in your favor. Yet if you feel like you have something to offer, and it's up to the person on the receiving end to say yes or no, that's what makes someone effective at sales, is just saying, hey, here's what I've got. I really want to talk to you about it. I'm really excited about it. I think it could really serve you. And I use the word serve very purposefully. Then it's up to the other person to decide. And in the case of finding a new job or a career, it's like, hey, here's what I have to offer. Here's the way I want to transition my skills. Hey, do you want it?
Oh, very well said. And I think too, it also requires that you listen to yourself as well, because when you get into that forcing feeling, it can almost, there's no peace in what you're moving forward with. And you can actually find solutions when you come to that place of peace. That's something that I really work hard when I'm worked up or upset. And of course, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world these days. And there's a lot of reasons that people can justify being that way. But those things don't serve us as we move forward to meet the needs of our lives. And that brings me to the next question. What kinds of strategies can people do as they're looking at maybe shifting careers that they've loved or they thought that they were made for? What can they do?
Yeah. Well, the first thing when I work with clients is I try to help them identify their gifts. And what I mean by a gift is it's different than a skill. The skill that I describe is it's something that you have that can complete a role and responsibility of a job. So you may have skills that are you're good at, but it doesn't mean you not like using them. Your gifts, on the other hand, are how you contribute to the world. It's like innate in you. And so for me, what is innate within me is I'm a connector, and I'm a creator. I love connecting people to themselves and one another. I love, creating really incredible programs, meaningful programs, so that people can do that self-connection and with one another. And I happen to manifest that gift right now in my career counseling career. However, I've manifested that gift differently. I've done community organizing where that gift could come out. And so the reason I'm saying that is because I think the first thing is, if you had a job that you really loved, what was the gift that you brought to the table? And then, a career is just a strategy to manifest that gift. What other careers are out there that can allow you to manifest your gifts? Then, of course, you have the skills and the talents that help you manifest your gifts as well. And that's where, the original part of the conversation I was sharing, identify those talents you want to move forward, those skills you want to move forward, and figure out which ones you want to let go. So I think it's a combination between those two to help you pivot your career. And really, I tell everybody there are multiple careers out there for them.
And there are, I think to my own life, and I
Mhm.
started out, people laugh when I tell them this. I started out and I wanted to become a nun in the Catholic Church, but my heart was to serve and to teach children. And then there came a point in my life when I realized I still had that desire to be a teacher and mentor, but I wanted my own kids. And so, yeah, kind of pursued that. Obviously, I did with 7 children, but I remember I was infatuated with psychology, and I loved psychology because of the way it helped to understand people.
Mhm.
And then I went into the military and found that that skill set was very applicable, even though I wasn't counseling people, but my role was many times as a counselor. And then I ended up leaving the military, raising a family, and that skill set still transferred over. And then, but I also developed a new skill set called public speaking. And so I was able to use both of those skill sets in my new role as a mother and as a church leader. And then now I'm back in the business world. And so the thing that we hold on to, we think that's it. We have to leave ourselves open to new solutions, which is where a coach like yourself is very helpful, because a lot of times we can't really see those things so close. I mean, in a sense, you're a salesman helping them uncover what's really going to help them in what they really need and what's really going to be the best solution given their circumstances. Would you like to comment on that a little bit?
Yeah, I have a story I'd like to share. I think it's going to really speak to what you just spoke about. I recently wrapped up working with a client who was in event planning. And when COVID hit, she first was furloughed and then she was laid off, and
Oh,
she was devastated. She got into event planning with the thought that it was her dream job. And when she was then furloughed and laid off, she just couldn't understand how her dream job couldn't exist anymore. And she ended up, before hiring me, looking at some online event planning positions, but it wasn't the same. It
mm-hmm.
would have been more where she loved the aspect of greeting participants, helping them, serving them, making them feel welcome. She realized that if she did more online, it was more administrative in nature, and that didn't speak to her. So when we started working together, we identified that her gift was of nurturance and really making people feel like they had a really warm experience. And she really decided that she wanted to apply that in a different field and started looking into human resources.
Wow.
Yeah. And since she was really a good networker, she started talking to her network and finding people who had backgrounds in HR and asked them what they liked, what they disliked about it. And people started feeding her job leads. Now, since she was competing with other people with more experience than her, she did have some rejections when it came to the job interviews. But I spoke to her a few days ago and she had just accepted a coordinator position. She did not have to start entry level because they did accept her experience. She did not have to take a salary cut. It was just comparable to what she was making in event planning. And she did get this job offer during COVID. And I will tell you, I have had 6 other clients have job interviews and they have accepted their offers. I just spoke to a client 2 days ago who is in the middle of the interview process. So people are hiring now and people are transitioning. They just have to be creative and really utilize their networks to make that transition happen.
So that leads me to our final discussion point, and that is people are hiring. I mean, it
Yes.
seems like things are going down, but people are still hiring. So what are some techniques that maybe you could share with our audience about, number one, how do you get yourself repositioned
Mhm.
so that you can get into those? So number one, I think, was, you mentioned networks. And another one I would think would be that we have to get into our head that people are hiring. If we don't believe they're hiring, then we're not going to go looking for the jobs, right?
Correct. Correct. I think the other thing we have to get into our head is that people want to help us. If you believe that people are hiring and they want to help you, it is such a great mindset to go out there, and the mindset that you want to give back to, both in what you have to offer and knowing that you can be of service. And you might not know how you can be of service yet, but with the belief that you offer something unique and amazing. And I think that's a skill within itself, is believing in yourself and then also tapping into who you know and networking. The best sales individuals I've met are really good networkers. They're really good at cultivating relationships. And that's the way I encourage my clients to approach, is not, oh, you're going out there for just getting a job, but you're really going out there to cultivate relationships and reconnect with people. And on that personal note, there's that personal connection, which can be so rewarding in itself during COVID because we're so disconnected. But then trying to figure out where you might offer your skills, your gifts, your talents, that's the other piece. So I want to be respectful of our time together, Anna. Do you want me to talk about what that might look like?
Sure, that would be great. Yes.
Yeah. So, the first thing I always share with my clients is you don't have to know exactly what job you want to target. You have to understand what you bring to the table. So, for
Mhm.
example, I was coaching a client the other day. We had some job titles in mind that she wanted to target, but she ended up saying I ended up sharing with her that she could talk to people and say, hey, I was in event planning and I really like the more organization and coordination aspects of my job. I've been thinking about titles such as administrative assistant and so forth, but I'm kind of curious, where in your workplace, what job titles would you suggest I target based on what I shared with you? So basically what she did was she shared where she was in the past, what parts or aspects of the job she liked, and then just simply ask the person who has that role in your company. So you don't have to know exactly what
Hmm.
that job is, but you can use other people to ask and learn more, or you can reach out to them and say, hey, what do you like about your job? Tell me more about your experience. I want to hear your story. Or you can reach out to a person and say, I want to hear more about your company. What's it like to work for them? And when you ask them for their time, just be respectful. Maybe ask them for 15, 20 minutes of their time. And always on the conversation, asking them, is there anything I can do for you? And if you feel inclined, you can also ask them for other introductions. So first part is identifying your where you want to go, then figuring out who you might want to target and ask those questions, and then figure out what questions you want to ask them. And when you're starting to ask questions, know that as you're doing it, you're building a relationship. You can stay in touch with that person. You can eventually ask them if there are any, how to get your foot in the door with that company, or how you might make the transition into that type of role. And when people understand that you might be looking, they may start telling you about leads. And that's very often what happens in these conversations. So I just want to give you some ideas, but if you want to do a little bit more research, they're called informational interviews. If you do some good Googling, there's some really great articles out there on how to do them. But that's what I would suggest. Never lead with, I want a job. Lead with, I want to learn more. And then see what happens as you build the relationship. Similar to sales in that you build the relationship and then you find out if they want to make the investment.
That's as you're sharing that story, it's really interesting. Just this week, my daughter has been looking for employment.
Mm-hmm.
Her ultimate goal is to win an Oscar someday. So she's in the entertainment industry. And so we happened to go to the local Sonic, and they saw that they were hiring. And so it was really funny. She said, "Oh, I suppose I should go online." And I said, "I can do you one better." The owner of the restaurant's a personal friend of mine. So I contacted him and I said, "Hey, are you hiring?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, my daughter's interested in working at Sonic. What does she need to do?" He said, "Have her come by the next morning." And so now that was a relationship that had been built for a long time. It was a friendship. And then my daughter is reaping the benefit now. She just started a couple of days ago. So today's her third day. She's a little overwhelmed. Fast food is tough. It's a tough industry.
Tough industry.
But like even within her industry, when she went to do school hunting, so to speak, college hunting, one college gave her a list of all of the skills, all of the professions that she has openings to just by the skill sets that she'll be learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so we always emphasize to her, and I emphasize to people that I'm working with, is relationships. It sounds to me that relationships are key. Relationships are the foundation to anything that you want to do to create a better future. And so those skills would be super, super important. Now, I'm sure that I've got folks out there going, "Well, boy, that really sounds good, Danielle. And do you have anything that, do you have any free offers? Like, I just would need a few minutes of your time." Do you have anything like that for them?
Yes, I do. So right now, I have just finished the second version of my book, To Come Full Circle.
Oh,
And what it is it uses your childhood stories to help you clarify your career direction.
ooh, I
It's
like
really
that.
cool. It's really cool. And the reason why I take you back to childhood, if you decide to read the book, is because when you look back to your childhood, you got to see what parts of you wants to come full circle and manifest in your career. So right now I am having a launch party, which means I am asking individuals who are interested to read the book. In return, they get a bit of complimentary coaching from me in return for their feedback. And if you're interested, please reach out to me. My email address is Danielle at innercompasscoach.com.
And say what the name of the book is again, Danielle.
To come full circle.
To Come Full Circle. Oh my goodness. I'll be emailing you because that sounds like a very, very fun thing to do. And I'd love to be part of your launch party.
Thank
So
you.
to come full circle, you just need to email Danielle at Inner Compass Coach, right? Did I get that right?
Mm-hmm.
And, and get that. I mean, if nothing else, guys, you can at least get that free, but you can also help Danielle with her launch, which would be amazing.
It
So go
would.
to give her well, let's go. So the email is Danielle at Inner Compass Coach. Where can they learn more about you, Danielle?
They can learn more about me at my website, innercompasscoach.com,
Okay.
or you can find me on LinkedIn, Danielle Roessle, Roessle.
All right. Any final words of wisdom for our audience that are just thinking, wow, there's hope now? What would you like to say to them?
Yes, you can do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me on Sales Mastery, Danielle.
Thank you. Thank you.